Charles Spencer joins me now. What an amazing expedition.
Well, it was. You know, this is a story that's obsessed me since I was a boy and I first read about it. This incredible drama. You have all of these important people on this ship, including the one man who could be king. And they go down and drown. And there's sort of moments of real human drama in this, because the prince was getting away. His bodyguards got him into the one lifeboat and were rowing him to safety. But then he heard his sister calling for help and ordered the men to turn back. And this is an age, which I didn't know before I researched the book. People didn't know how to swim at all. So when they saw this rowing boat going by, they all tried to clamber on. They took the prince down. So it's only because he wanted to go and save her that he went down.
That is astonishing, isn't it? And I mean, everything would have changed. It's that one moment and it just changed absolutely everything.
Well, yes, we wouldn't have had some of the most famous kings in English history. We wouldn't have had Richard the Lionheart, wouldn't have had King John and the Magna Carta. I mean, everything would have changed. We'd have had different versions, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that line wouldn't have come, the Plantagenets wouldn't have ruled England. It's extraordinary, really. Just on one, I'm afraid it's because the crew were drunk that they hit the rock, because everyone knew the rock was out there. It's very visible at low tide, but it is underwater at high tide. But the crew were drunk and they were going too fast. And they hit the rock, and that was that.
Jeez. It's just in the back of the book that's out in paperback, it says how a drunk teenager shipwrecked the monarchy. And colourful and racy. Now, that's what's good about this, because this is not a dry historical,
Thank you.
tome, I should say. It's a rollicking good read.
Well, my background was in television a long time ago, and I was a correspondent, and I was taught, really, you have to write to picture. You can't just write something dry for TV. You have to actually have something to show. And that's what I've always tried to do with my writing. And this has been actually so interesting to go back into the Middle Ages, because in the video you just saw, it was mentioned it was the Titanic of its time. Yeah. But this, I proposed this to the publishers as it's a cross between Game of Thrones and Titanic. Yeah. Because there's so much going on, so much drama, and it is pretty brutal. This period, you didn't want to get on the wrong side of the king, because it was all eyeballs out and all hands off and worse. And unmentionable. Yes. You're absolutely right. Now, how close are you now to discovering, to making a real breakthrough, do you think? Well, we did find that piece of wood that they were looking at quite a lot under the water. Roger, the wonderfully enthusiastic American who was interviewed, who's a great man, he's pretty convinced that's the right age, the right... so that you can measure shipbuilding techniques through the ages, and it is the right period. And we're going to go back in a couple of weeks for a more scientific approach even from that, and really work it out. But that you could see little bits of the metalwork, etc., in that piece of wood that marks it as an ancient wreck. Is it the White Ship? Well, it could easily be, because we know that rock was so well known that there isn't a record of any great ship going down on that since. So because they were all sober and knew what they were doing. Exactly. Now, look, because I said it was written in that, and you mentioned writing to pictures. Yes. Inevitably, you must have been approached for a movie or a series or something. Yes, I was. I have been. There's a couple of people in Hollywood who seem interested in it. I have to say, it's probably not the quality of the book, but it is because of the thirst for things like Game of Thrones. I think that it has a natural market. So we'll see. I mean, my wife was previously married to a hotshot producer, and she said, yeah, well, this is a very early stage. There has been interest, and there has been quite a lot of interest. And then it's published, actually, in the States properly in October, and hopefully we'll get some lift off that. That sounds fantastic. Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be so good. And Althorp, of course, is going to be opening up, isn't it, in July? Yes. And people can see for themselves the internet sensation that is Tim the Peacock. Tim the Peacock is, I accept, the most famous resident of the house at the moment. And he has this huge following on social media. If I put something up... I mean, look at the colour on him. You can see. He's beautiful. He's not the brightest. He's not very bright. No. Look, Tim is famous for his looks, not his brain. And at this time of year, when his testosterone is quite high and he's doing a lot of parading for the peahens, he has quite often attacked my car because he sees a reflection and he thinks it's another peacock to be seen off. So there's a lot of feathers flying, but not for much result. And are you looking forward to having everybody back? Has it been too quiet without you visitors? I tell you, so we're only open for 60 days a year in July and August. And what I was taught, my father was he was a lovely man, and he said, there are so many stately homes where if you go around as a member of the public, you're treated as a sort of unwanted paying visitor. And he said the key is to make people, when they come to our house, to make them feel that they are welcome guests, because they have, you know, they could go and do so many other things, and they've chosen to come there. And no, we really look after them. And he also told me the real secret is the tea has to be good and the loos have to be clean.
Absolutely.
And people remember that far after they've forgotten the art or whatever, they're going to remember how they were treated.
Exactly. And you can buy a fridge magnet and a pencil.
Yes.
And sweeties. That's very, very important. And of course, a lot of people go there because they want to pay tribute to your sister. Of course they do. Of course they do.
Yes.
And, you know, we saw that with Harry and Meghan's baby. I know there's been a hoo-ha about that, but at the end of the day, there's a wee baby that's been born, and you've got a great niece, and that's fantastic.
You know, that's the thing. Lorraine, when I look at all these things, I mean, there are the newspapers going berserk again. And I find, I've always found it so hard. I think it's because I'm not very imaginative, but I always see things in terms of family. And I remember when I was a boy and Diana became Princess of Wales, I just sort of ploughed along on the same path, you know. And you separate the media personality from the real person who's a member of your family, and that's all that matters at the end of the day.
No, absolutely. And of course, I know how protective you are about Diana's memory. We know there was all the, I mean, it was a scandal what happened with Panorama. It was deeply wounding to anybody that loved her. And also, I think people now realise how vulnerable she was. She was so vulnerable at that time.
Well, do you know, one of the most revealing things that happened after, well, Panorama were found guilty of that scandal, I got a lot of letters from the public, all very supportive and all very sad, actually, that this had happened. But one was from this very interesting man, and I'd never met him, and he wrote to me and he said, in the autumn of 1995, I was a father at a sports match in which Harry was playing. And he said, I met your sister, and I thought, she is just the most special person I've ever met. And then he said, after that, she gave her interview, and he had a very different opinion of her. By the way, I think she could, you know, it's fine to give an interview if she wanted to, but it's just the way she was tricked into it.
Exactly.
And he said in his letter to me last week, he said, I now realise the circumstances behind that, and now I realise she was that very special woman and not the one I was worried about her being. So I thought that vindicated everything. You know, people got the context of what it was all about. She was tricked into a particular sort of interview. And of course, that really set the tone for a lot of what she said. And of course she had the right to speak, and I'd fully supported that, but not having been deceived into it.
No, exactly. And the legacy goes on. You've got the Diana Awards later on this year. The statue is going to be happening and our boys will be there. And it's a great way to remember her, that's all. I've
always been a great supporter of the Diana Awards. I think they're fantastic. And in fact, we've had all the winners come for free round the house when it's open with their family as my guests. And I'm honoured this year to be the chair of the judges for the International Awards, which happen every 2 years. And I met these people last time. They're astonishing. They're dealing in really tricky areas. You know, it could be female genital mutilation, or it could be trying to find water sources for a community in Bangladesh. Young people who are inspired by Diana to do great things. I mean, what better legacy can you have than that? It's
fantastic, and making life better. Thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Let me know what happens, because I know you're going back in a couple of weeks. And as we said, The White Ship is out in paperback now, and it says, I love the reviews, as gripping as any thriller, says Bill Bryson. It doesn't get any better than that, does it? Come on, that's thrilling. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Don't forget, you can watch full episodes of Lorraine on the ITV Hub, and all the best clips, compilations and playlists right here on our channel. Just subscribe now and you'll never miss an upload. Click here to watch another video similar to this one, or click here to head to our channel's homepage to explore all of our exciting videos.